Happened yesterday, but my live stream, well, it wasn't. When I went to check on it, there was just a blank page. And I guess I screwed up somehow. I'm pretty new to using Streamlabs stuff, so that's one of the reasons. Maybe there's some kind of jinx in the last couple of days, although I really don't believe that. But Reverend Lisa's also been having technical issues. Hers were related, first of all, to her phone, and then the fact that her volume wasn't loud enough. And she's the lady who reads at 9 o'clock every morning. She's my colleague. She reads 9 o'clock every morning, Central Time, 9 o'clock-ish. So as I said, I really don't know what happened. So by way of apology, well, here is yesterday's reading once again. And I'm not going to comment on it because I have to come back later on and also do my reading for today. So I'm ending up doing this one twice. And it's called Whitewashing History. Whitewashing History. And the quote originally is from LeGarrette King. And he's up at the University of Buffalo. And he's a professor there. And I guess he specializes in social things, all things social. He says, whose children are we talking about? Black parents taught to their children about racism. Asian parents taught to their kids about racism. Just say that you don't want white kids to learn about racism. And as I said, that was LeGarrette King, which is fair comment based on what's been going on recently with, anyway, Reverend Andriette will tell you more. Ernest Holmes, in a publication called How to Increase Your Good, and who wouldn't want to increase their good, How to Increase Your Good, on page 3 says, now this is going to call for faith and perseverance and fortitude. It is going to call for persistency of effort and a certain flexible determination to see the thing through to its final conclusion. And of course, that depends on what you're working on. And here, obviously, we're talking about racial equality. And much more than that, but specifically this month, we're talking about racial equality. And even more specifically, we're talking about how that affects Black or African Americans in the US. President Joe Biden said, acknowledging some dark periods in our history is important, alluding to efforts to sanitize American history. Case in point, the Florida Board of Education approved new standards for African American history, and it seems high school students will now be taught a distorted view and a whitewashed history of the Ocoee Massacre of 1920. A more accurate telling of this tragedy reveals that whites attacked and killed Black residents of Ocoee, Florida, when 2 Black men attempted to vote. And this is in the 20th century. It was not true, as was reported at that time, that, quote, acts of violence were first perpetrated by African Americans, unquote. Dozens of Black residents were killed in the ultimate act of voter suppression. The rest forced to flee and their property seized. This is not accurately reflected in many history books. In his address, President Biden said, at a time when some seek to ban books and bury history, we're making it clear that we can't just choose to learn only what we want to know. We should learn everything that's good, bad, and the truth about who we are as a nation. That's what good nations do, and we are the greatest nation of all. Only with truth comes healing and justice and another step toward forming a perfect union. And that was all a quote from President Joe Biden. I do have a couple of comments on this shortly. Only by telling the truth, the whole truth, is reconciliation possible. Just as the truth was withheld and whitewashed to conceal what happened in Ocoee, the current legislation strives to do the same thing by conflating historical facts and contrived revisionist narratives. Now is our opportunity to declare the truth and commence healing and reconciliation. And the affirmation that she gives us is, I have the faith to see it through. I have the faith to see it through. I'm of a belief that we should tell what happened. Some say history is written by the winners, and that's probably to a large extent true, except in the case of the Bible, where the Jewish writers told the whole truth, and sometimes it was not very nice, that the people were not behaving very well and they were hauled off into captivity. Joe Biden says that's what good nations do and we're the greatest of all nations. Well, I take exception to that. Why? Because I was born in a different country. I've lived in lots of different parts of the world. And I think every nation has a right to become the greatest nation. And what is the greatest nation? To me, the greatest nation is the human race. I am part of the human race. That, to me, is my nation. It isn't just the US. It isn't just the United Kingdom where I was born. It isn't the Netherlands where I spent a lot of time, or the Middle East where I spent a lot of time. I look at my nation as the human race. So, and I think because we're the only race of our type on Earth, then we're the greatest nation. I'm not even going to say we're the greatest species. We're the most successful species, that's for sure, if you define success as what we've done. But we're not necessarily the most intelligent species. We know that the octopus, which only lives for 1, 2, 3, or 4 years, is also highly intelligent. We know that whales and dolphins and others are highly intelligent. Some of the higher apes are highly intelligent, so are elephants. So it's kind of hubris to me to say that human beings are the greatest there are. No, I think we're all entitled to be treated fairly and equally and well. But specifically back to our point here, I am all in favor of telling history how it was. And if white people, of which I'm one, committed atrocious acts, then it should come to light. Why not? You know, I didn't do it and I wasn't around at that time. But the fact is, it happened and people need to know. I believe that. I believe we need to know our history. And I don't believe that we should go into guilt and shame about it. I just think we ought to know what it is. And it ought to help us in putting right what is wrong, which is the fact that in this nation and around the world, not everyone is treated equally. Sometimes for race, sometimes for gender, sometimes for religion. We all have the right to be treated equally. That's me. And as the affirmation says, I have the faith to see it through.